Hi there, I'm Jesse Dom. I'm here to teach you Revit. Now, I've been using Revit since 2010. I'm a BIM manager now, and I've modeled, documented everything from subway stations to residential. I studied architectural technology and building science, but as for Revit, I'm self taught. Everywhere that I've worked, people have been pretty fresh on the Revit front, and I've had to answer all of their questions, figure out how to do everything, test it, make sure that I knew how to do it, and then turn around and teach it, which was really useful for understanding how to use the program. I started off by building families. I was tasked with building a bookcase using a manual, a physical manual, and I got through it. And then quickly I was tasked with building a curtain wall door. A curtain wall door was really complicated first thing to build because I had to learn how to use curtain wall and then build a very flexible family. Now I completely overcomplicated it. It was bad. But I fixed it and delivered something that was somewhat useful. It wasn't great. But I ended up building most of that company's library at the time. They were still pretty fresh into Revit, and I was quickly the most knowledgeable person in that space. I thought that I knew better than Revit because I figured out how to do certain things, and I went, oh, okay, now this is great. Let me build this window this way, and then I went, curtain wall, it's too whatever, I didn't know. And I ended up building a bunch of probably generic models, and tried to bypass what curtain wall was already doing, which was really stupid. But in doing that, I learned how to ask the best question, which was, what does Revit want? It's a very intelligently designed program. Generally, if you use the tools the way that they're designed, you're going to get a really good output. And a lot of the different things work off of each other and work in the right kind of way. The best part was I learned how to use Revit as it's intended to be used. And since I taught other people how to do it, I can teach you too. I can explain all of this. We're going to get into it. Now, what are we going to be doing in this channel? This series, I guess? We're going to be documenting a house. It's an easy place to start. And if we're enjoying this, we'll get into commercial. But for the house, we're going to start from scratch. We're using Revit completely out of the box. We're going to build all of the families. We're going to build annotation, 3D families, 2D families. We're going to systematically go through it, and I'll explain in detail. I'll explain what we're doing, and more importantly, I'll explain why we're doing it. Now, apologies for the poor video quality. This is my first go into streaming YouTube tutorials and all of that. It's not really streaming, but doing tutorials. I'll get better programs or whatever. But for now, this is free. And really, for now, this is a free channel. I'm here to freely give you a wealth of information because I didn't have access to this kind of knowledge or this kind of information when I was getting into Revit. I had to figure it all out. I had to Google and study and watch Revit and click something and try to see something going and stare at it and figure out and wait for the program to catch up and then watch that tiny little change and go, oh, okay. And then turn around and teach other people how to do that or what was going on. So the only thing that I'm going to be asking for is to use a Patreon. This is a way that you can say thanks for what I've created and what I've given out. If you saw me out and about and you're like, oh man, hey, I want to buy you a beer or I want to buy you a coffee, the Patreon's the best way to do that. Casual way to say thank you and encourage me to do more of this content because right now this is my evenings and weekends time. I still work a full-time job. I'd love to be able to do this full-time. Help me do so. As a thank you for being part of the Patreon, I will give you access to all of the files from what I create through these tutorials. Yeah, you can do it yourself, but if you just want the files and learn a bit along the way, that's your prerogative. But that's the Patreon for you. All right, I'm not going to mess about, not going to waste a whole bunch of your time. Thank you for listening. Follow along the tutorials. The best way to follow tutorials is by watching it all the way through and then doing it yourself, watching it again. That way you absorb most of what I say and what I explain, and then follow it along piece by piece, you doing it yourself. I generally coach people when I'm teaching Revit, but this is a YouTube series and you can pause and play and do whatever you want with the videos. That's entirely up to you. So enjoy the content that's about to come, and thanks for listening. See you later.